Hello, and this is a video key for Do Now 30.1 for geometry. And the first question, no calculators. Please simplify each of these. Each one will have two answers. So the first thing you want to do for each one of these is you want to look for any perfect squares that are hiding as factors inside of them. So for E, the square root of 98 is the same as the square root of 49 times 2. So that can be broken into plus. Okay, we can break that into, we can factor out or move out the square root of 49, and we'll be left with 7 square root of 2. And since we have 2 square roots, it'll be plus or minus the square root of 7 square root of 2. All right, let's look at F. Okay, for F, we've got 200 in there. So we've got the square root of 200, and we can break 200 into 2 times 100. So that's the square root of 100 times 2, and that will, we can pull a square root of 100 out of there. So it'll be plus or minus 10 square root of 2. Okay, and then for G, 20 is 5 times 4. So we've got a square root hidden in there, a perfect square hidden in there. There's 4. So square root of 20 is going to equal the square root of 4 times 5, which will equal plus or minus, once we pull out the square root of 4, plus or minus 2, which is the square root of 4, square root 5. And then finally, H, that consistent. H, the square root of 24. Okay, well, 24 is 4 times 6, so we can break that up to 4 times 6. And so we can get the square root of 4, that's plus or minus 2 square root of 6. All right, and you're done with those. Now let's take a look at these. X squared equals 25, that's A. So what we need to do is get the square root of A squared and the square root of 25. So A, that's not A, what am I saying? That's X squared, okay? So that's gonna end up being X equals plus or minus 5, because that's the square root of 25. Well, those are the square roots of 25. C, we've got X squared equals 169, and I'm just going to copy this structure here, and because it's the same basic approach, we're going to replace 25 with 169 here, and so we get the square root of X squared, and we get the square root of 169. The square root of 169 is plus 13 and also negative 13. Okay, then E is a slightly trickier one. So we've got a 12 in here. Okay. And the square root of 12 is going to equal the square root of 4 times 3. And so that's going to end up meaning that X equals plus or minus 2. We can get the square root of 4, square root of 3. And that is the answer. All right, 1C, let's take a look at this. So we've got 1/6 times the square root of 48, and we got the square root of 49 times 3. So for E, we got 1/6 times the square root of 48. Okay, just going to put a little thing there, make it a little easier to see. You don't need to, but I did. Okay, so there we go. Let's break out 48 into factors. Well, 48 can be broken into 6 times 8. It can be broken up into 12 times 4. It can also be broken up into 16 times 3. All right, now if you didn't see all that, we could just break that up into all its factors. So if it's 8 times 6. That means 8 is 2 times 2 times 2, and 6 is 2 times 3. Okay, and if you're getting a square root, really what you're doing is you're taking half of the factors of something. Well, we only have one factor of 3, so that's just going to be left behind. But we could get the square root of 2 times 2 times 2 times 2, which will just be 2 times 2. So let's answer this one and clean it up. So I'm going to take all of these 2's, leave that 3 in there, and it's going to end up being just 2 of those 2's. So 2 times 2, which is 4, and then 4 times 1/6 we'll deal with in a second. So that's going to be, and of course it is ultimately now plus or minus. Okay, so that's going to be plus or minus. Well, 4 times 1/6 is 4/6 or 2/3 square root of 3. And we typically write that as like this, plus or minus 2 square root of 3 all over 3. And then you're done with that one. Well, let's look at F. F is going to be, we've got the square root of 49 times 3, and we can get the square root of 49. That's 7. So that's going to equal plus or minus 7 square root of 3. And you're done with that one as well. All right, I hope that was helpful.